Hi guys, and welcome to a new episode of A Dog's Soul. I'm Anita, I'm your host, and I'm a professional dog trainer, and today we're gonna talk about conflict. So stay tuned and have fun. Alright, welcome again. Our topic for today is conflicts, and there are actually quite a number of different conflicts for our dogs, and sometimes we are the cause of that, and sometimes it just happens, and we're gonna look at a few situations where we can actually help our dogs. So let's have a look at our typical dog Jimmy and look at a few things that Jimmy could experience on his walks and that include conflict. So Jimmy is walking with his mommy, and Jimmy has found a very interesting spot to explore. So he's sniffing around a lot and he's following that scent he got into his nose, and he's going further and further away from his mommy, but he doesn't really realize that because he's so focused on his trail that he's following. And suddenly he hears his mommy calling. So Jimmy has to make a choice. He has this interesting trail he's following, but he knows that his mommy has very good stuff for him too if he listens to her and comes back to her. In addition to that knowledge, he now realizes that his mommy is really far away. So he could decide to follow the trail, or he could decide to go back to his mommy. And now we have the first conflict. Jimmy has two motivations. One is to follow the trail, and one is to come back to his mommy and receive his reward. Whichever motivation is stronger for Jimmy, he will follow. So if this is a very new trail and very fresh, and he can literally smell the bunny or whatever right in front of him, it's very likely for him to continue on the trail. Because the motivation, the bunny, is so close and he can reach it very easily. Whereas his mommy is far away and he probably knows the treats she would give him when he comes back. Now, of course, this is a very common situation. We all had this experience where we were calling our dogs and they just wouldn't listen. They just continued doing what they were doing. And what we can do to help our dogs decide in the conflict to listen to us instead of do what they wanted in the first place is that we offer different kinds of rewards. So our dogs know there will be a great reward, but they don't know what it will be. So we keep them guessing. And what happens is, since the dog doesn't know, he might decide in our favor. Because there is a possibility that what we are offering is better than what he could get on his own. Of course, there is no guarantee for that, because especially with very hunting motivated dogs, it's really hard to decide against some kind of wildlife, especially when it's close. And to help these dogs, I would always recommend a long line attached to a harness, of course. Because if they cannot achieve their goal on their own, so they cannot reach their prey, no matter what they do, because they're on a leash, it's more likely that they decide in our favor. Because, of course, they can get the reward, but they cannot get the prey. And what we can do in addition to that, or instead of that, is that we use a double recall. And a double recall includes a recall and some kind of continuing signal. That can be something like cookie. Yeah. And what you just heard were my dogs running towards me, because that's actually their recall. And what that continuing signal does is that it gives the dog a constant feedback on where I am and how far they are away. And of course, our dogs just don't want to be left alone somewhere. So the likelihood that they come back is greater. Also, the continuing signal gives them a chance to get the reward even though they don't react immediately. So it's also a keep going signal. And sometimes our dogs just need a little bit longer to decide in our favor, and the keep going signal tells them if you do a little more, you can still get the reward even though time has passed. And of course, what we should never do is punish our dogs when they take a little longer to come back, or even if they take off and come back hours later. That's a horrible feeling, I get that. But if we punish the dog, the likeliness of him coming back the next time is lowered even more. So even if we get frustrated, even if we get angry because the dog ignores us, we really have to suck it up. Of course we have feelings, but especially in that situation, it's very important to at least stay neutral. And of course, what happens very often is that our dogs only get called when we want to put them on a leash and walk home. And if they were having fun and we do that, we kind of punish them because they no longer get to have fun. And if we do that too often, and for one dog that might be 2 times, and for one dog it might be 20 times, it can just destroy our recall. So try to use the recall just for fun and to play with your dog and to have fun together, and not just to put the leash back on. So let's have a look at another kind of conflict. We're back with Jimmy, and Jimmy's walking on a leash and he sees another dog. And let's say Jimmy is a very friendly dog and he likes to meet other dogs and greet other dogs and play with other dogs, and he's just very social and very nice, and he wants to approach that other dog, but he's on a leash, so he cannot reach the other dog in his speed or at all, because his mommy wants to walk down another path or avoid that dog because she knows that that dog isn't friendly or whatever. So Jimmy's mommy decides he cannot greet that dog. So again, Jimmy's in a conflict because he wants to greet that dog, but his mommy wants to go a different way. So again, Jimmy has a decision to make, and his mommy can help him with that process. The better reward she can offer for doing what she asks, the more likely Jimmy will just oblige. So, of course, the reward cannot always be better than meeting the other dog, but it can be as good, or at least close to. So, if Jimmy's mommy now offers him nothing because he just has to obey her command because he's a dog, Jimmy will get frustrated and he will have a very hard time to decide for his mommy. If his mommy, on the other hand, is offering him a chasing game with her where he can run after her, and maybe when he reaches her he can chase a cookie and he can eat that cookie and it's a very yummy cookie, then Jimmy is more likely to decide for his mommy, especially when she gives a cue that he already knows. So, of course, you can train for this situation in advance. And the third situation I want to walk you through is whatever your dog is afraid of. So let's say Jimmy is a very young dog and he's on a walk again with his mommy, and he walks down the street and suddenly he sees a man in an orange uniform, and he has never seen that before. So he stops and he looks at it, and in his mind red flags are up and he's trying to figure out what that is. So it walks like a human, it smells a little funny, but also human, but he looks really weird because of this uniform. And now Jimmy's mommy is trying to help him, and she holds a treat in front of his nose and lures him closer to that person. What that does for Jimmy is that he's afraid of that, so he doesn't want to get closer because he cannot really assess what this thing is doing, but he really wants to have that treat. So a conflict is growing in him, and the closer he gets, because mommy is holding the treat in front of his nose and getting closer to that person, the greater the conflict becomes. So what could happen is that Jimmy gets very close to the person, passes by the person, is very, very tense while doing so, and as soon as he passed this person, he is relieved. But the situation wasn't really nice for him. And the other possibility is that Jimmy will just stop dead in his tracks. He's gotten himself into a situation where he's so afraid that he cannot move anymore. He cannot leave, he cannot go back, he cannot increase distance, he's just frozen. And that's actually a horrible feeling. So both situations are not really nice for the dog. The dog cannot really learn that nothing's happening to him because it's already happening. And he is really afraid. So both situations should be avoided. And what you can do is that you just let your dog look at that thing that he's afraid of. He can increase distance if he needs to. You can also mark looking at the thing, and with the reward, you increase the distance. That way you show your dog a way out. And that will actually teach your dog that even if he's a little concerned, he can just walk away. And if your dog memorizes that as his default behavior, you will not have a dog that panics, but you will have a dog who shows you very, very obviously that something is too close and that he needs more space. Which is actually a really nice thing because you can work with that really well. Alright, so those three examples were very common things, and they are sometimes a little misunderstood. And of course, every conflict that occurs, including a resource, is also something very common, and that's why you should never just approach your dog when he has something he wants to guard, because you create a conflict and it's not necessary. You can just, as soon as you see that your dog has a problem with something, you can try to change situations in a way where your dog stays comfortable. And that's possible with almost anything. And yes, sometimes it's a little difficult to change situations, and sometimes we might not be able to, but those should be the exceptions. Most of the time we should be able to just stay in a comfortable zone and help our dogs with the decision-making process. And I get that sometimes we would like our dogs to just do what we ask because they love us, but that's not how it works. Yes, with easy things, it can work that way, but not if there is a conflict. And conflicting motivations and stuff like that. So we should always ask ourselves, why should that dog do what I ask? And if we cannot answer that question other than because he loves me, he will probably just not do that. So I hope you have an idea how to help your dog through these situations. And if you need help with that, write me an email, write me a WhatsApp. I'll be happy to see what I can do. And if you have any questions, let me know. All right. So this is it for today, and I wish you a lovely time with your dog, and until next time, bye!